Hi friends, it's Peggy Noe from prettypapercards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm here today to show you a really pretty card from the Very Versailles stamp set by Stampin' Up! And the sentiment on it is "Have a beautiful day." I love the Very Versailles stamp set, and I've combined it on this card with some embossed leaves, and I wanted to show you today how to do the embossed leaves. So let me get my glasses on and let's get started. So just focusing on these two leaves, one is out of Petal Pink cardstock and one is cut from Mint Macaron cardstock. Now this leaf here is a copper embellishment from the Leaves Trinkets, and they come in copper and silver. I've used more of the copper ones, you can tell, but I think they add just such a nice little touch, and I love the way they added to my embossed leaves on this card. So let's see how to make those embossed leaves. I used the Nature's Roots die set, and it's actually a die and embossing set. And what I love about it is these particular dies here, these three, emboss and do not cut. And then the border dies that border them actually do the cutting. So I'm going to show you what I did here. So let's take this large one first. So it starts out with you run a piece of Petal Pink cardstock through your Big Shot. And this is the way it would come out. This is the embossing, and then it's still within the piece of cardstock, and then you put the border die over it, and it will cut it out. And so that's how it will come out if you use both dies. If you just wanted to cut a leaf without embossing, this is how it would come out, just like that. And I want to show you something special that I did to these leaves to make them really show up. You can see here on my sample how they show up. Now, one thing I've done is I've taken crumb cake ink and I've used a sponge dauber and sponged both edges and a little bit on the top. That's one thing I did. But the other thing I did I want to show you today is a little bit of a trick using a Stampin' Blend. And here I'm using the light crumb cake Stampin' Blend, and I'm using it on the pointed end, not the brush end. So I'm going to take my lid off, and on my embossed piece, I'm just going to draw inside the embossing and cover that with the Stampin' Blend. And I know it looks kind of messy, but I'm just going to go along those lines there, just like that. And you think it looks odd, but just wait until it dries. And I'm just filling in those pre-embossed lines. And when it dries, I'll show you it's very pale and it looks really nice. Now I'm going to take the one that I did not emboss and I'm going to add some veins to it by doing this. I'm just going to draw them on freehand here. And this adds, a little realistic look to your leaves. And it's very simple and quick and easy to do. That's why I wanted to show it to you. So this one is still drying, but this gave such dimension to the leaves. And look how they turned out here when everything was dried and brushed a little with crumb cake ink on a sponge dauber. It really gave it a kind of vintage and realistic look. Now let's look at the next ones, and that is the three petal leaf. And this one you do the exact same way. First you would run your piece of Mint Macaron cardstock through your Big Shot with just this embossing die on it. And it would create this embossed look. And then you'll run it back through a second time with the border piece, and that cuts it. Now I have tried to do both at the same time. I bet you're asking that. And I've tried to do both at the same time, and it just came out the way I did it anyway. Maybe you can get it to come out just perfect. But I didn't have as much success as when I did the embossing first and then went back through with the border die. And then this was just the border die itself without any embossing. So let's use our light crumb cake Stampin' Blend again. And it gives a completely different look on this color, doesn't it? On the mint macaron color. And we're just going to go in and just highlight those pre-embossed lines. I'm not even being very exact. And I really like what it does. It just gives it a little depth and dimension. And then here's our piece that we did not emboss, and you can do the same thing that we did with the other leaf, just without the embossed layers. You just draw it in freehand. And by the time you get that done and it dries, it really has a nice look. And I know it's coming up to be fall. Schools are starting and we're all thinking about fall, aren't we? And so I wanted to show you how to do this before you start making all your fall leaves. So leaves for your cards, of course, that's what I meant. So here's how they turned out. I would have to say I like this one a little bit better than this one, but you can see what it does, how it adds that nice depth. And that's how I did these leaves here. And here's where you can see where I've drawn in. And then I've sponged the edges there, and a little bit of sponging on top with crumb cake ink using the little thumb dauber. Sponge dauber, I guess they call it, that fits right over your finger. So to finish your card, I'll give you a few more tips. Here's the stamp set that I used. It's called Very Versailles, and I love it because, for a lot of reasons, but I love these two little sentiments. They're so just small and sweet, and this leaf in particular is one of my favorites. It just has the light and dark shading. Look at how pretty that is. So I've done a watercolor wash using my aqua painter and paddle pink ink, and I put it on the Fluid 100 watercolor paper, let it dry, and then I stamped the leaf stamp in mint macaron. This is some linen thread that I just tied a bow and had it come up under there, and I've shown you the embellishment. And I thought you might wonder about the little label for the sentiment there. And that's from another set of dies, the Perfect Parcel dies. And you might see, oops, there's a little piece of thread in there. You might see that I have put my dies on magnet boards. I get these from Stampin' Storage, and I really like the way I can see everything, and it keeps my dies adhered to the magnet. And this is the die that I used from the Perfect Parcel die set. And what I did is I just, let's see, how did I do that? That doesn't, oh yeah, here's how I did it. So I stamped, and then I cut with this die like that, and then I just trimmed off the sides here and the top to leave that cute little, kind of just a little cute little thing, I guess I'll call it, because I don't have a better word for it. But I liked the little pointy swirl there. And I thought that just looked really cute, and I raised it up on Stampin' Dimensionals. That was stamped with Early Espresso ink, and my splattering was done with Early Espresso ink. And this is from the Subtles Designer Series paper pack, 6x6 inch pieces. So this is my card for today. You know, I always do an envelope, and I hope I've told you enough so that you could recreate this cute card, or at least know how to make these pretty leaves from the Nature's Roots die set and give them a little dimension with your Stampin' Blends. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you've already subscribed to my YouTube channel. If you haven't, please do so. And I hope you'll come and see me on my blog, prettypapercards.com, where you can click my shop and purchase any of these items that you've seen today. And I also have them listed below with links, so you can click the links right below the video on YouTube to go straight to my shop. These are going to be some fabulous products for all of your fall stamping. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.